Part 77. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 765. After listening to Yuri, do you want me to point my gun at them? After hearing this, Yuri. Wang Ling sneered, stop talking to me about this. I don't need you to tell me what to do. You. Even with Yuri X's mentality, this kind of statement is a bit hard to accept. Thinking of him, Yuri. Humph. Who do you think you are? You are just a controlled prisoner. How dare you be so arrogant in front of Master X? Yuri. Long-winded. However, instead of suppressing Wang Ling, these words seemed to anger him. He rushed forward, grabbed the psychic soldier's throat, and lifted him up. This sudden movement frightened the surrounding Yuri troops. It was unclear what was going on. All the tanks aimed their barrels at Wang Ling. Even the Yuri recruits put their fingers on their temples. It seemed that a mental shock may occur at any time. However, Wang Ling ignored this at all, grabbed the member of the psychic army, sneered, and threatened in turn, who do you think you are, dare to talk to me like this? Do you really think I am a soft persimmon? Take care of it. Use your own mouth, or I will kill you, and no one in the whole army can stop you. After finishing speaking, Wang Ling actually exuded a strong murderous intent, covering almost all Yuri's troops. In an instant, all the infantrymen were shocked and their hearts were beating. Even Yuri X's temples couldn't help but a cold sweat broke out. As for this member of the psychic force, he was lifted in the air. After feeling the murderous intention, he did not dare to make any resistance. He just subconsciously grabbed Wang Ling's wrist and kicked his legs with a suppressed expression. They are all a little purple. Wang Ling. If you have something to say, let him go. Finally, Yuri X couldn't stand it any longer and interrupted Wang Ling. But Wang Ling did not kill him in the end. He snorted and threw the member of the psychic army aside. After landing, the member of the psychic army coughed for a while and felt angry, but he dared not speak out. After standing up, he hid behind Yuri X with a gloomy face. After suppressing these unconvinced voices with strong force, Wang Ling walked away from Yuri's troops calmly, saying at the same time, don't be stunned. Since those old subordinates are coming, then come with me, go meet them. A group of Yuri troops glanced at each other, and finally focused their attention on Yuri X. They waited for him to nod before taking action collectively. Strangely enough, Wang Ling had just been controlled, but he acted as if he was the commander of this base, leaving a group of Yuri troops confused. Following Wang Ling, a member of the psychic force finally couldn't hold it in anymore and asked, Master. At this point, Yuri, the people who live there are like puppets, but they still have stronger fighting power than before. But Wang Ling is different here. His potential has almost been developed to its strongest state at this stage, and our mind control cannot continue to develop and suppress it forcibly. His personality will only deplete his combat effectiveness. Therefore, Leader Yuri specially said it in the psychic beacon. Instead of suppressing Wang Ling's personality, he focused on amplifying his dark personality in order to achieve maximum combat effectiveness. Dark personality? No wonder he is so arrogant, the member of the psychic army suddenly realized after hearing this. Hey, what are you chewing on my tongue from behind? At this time, Wang Ling suddenly turned around and yelled, which actually made the member of the psychic army tremble and shut his mouth quickly. Yuri. TCH, boring, Wang Ling waved his hand and did not pursue the issue. After everyone walked together for a while, Wang Ling suddenly thought of something, turned his head and asked, Hey, X, has the Mind Empire mastered the spy technology? Yuri X shook his head matter-of-factly, no. What happened to Einstein before? Wang Ling was curious. Yuri X smiled and said, that was forcibly copied by the copying center. Copy? After hearing this, Wang Ling immediately raised his eyebrows, very curious and puzzled about this situation. And now that Wang Ling has been controlled, these are no longer secrets to him, and Yuri X did not hide it from him. We caught Einstein and wanted him to work for us, but this old man, he was unwilling to live or die, but his mental power was too strong to control. As a result, leader Yuri thought of the copying center and forcibly copied Einstein. However, during the subsequent mental control, strangely, he could only control half of him. Thinking, so this Einstein's position is very unclear, he is both a member of the Allies and a member of the Mind Empire. What kind of state is this? Two-faced. No wonder this old guy appeared in two colors on the electronic map before. It's not surprising to say that he is two-faced, because half of his thoughts belong to the Allies, so even if Einstein works for us, he has reservations, which is a headache. However, after all, half of his thoughts belong to us, so in you, when the leader here planned to control you, Einstein did not refuse, and even personally proposed a plan to control you. The intelligence sent to the Allies was also mixed with truth and falsehood. The device he said to block psychic detection could actually only be concealed. Ordinary soldiers cannot escape the electronic map observation of the command post, so we already knew it from the moment you and Tanya sneaked into the base. However, Einstein asked not to deal with Tanya, so we deliberately moved away. Tanya, specially come to surround you. Finally, Yuri. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 766. Previously, Wang Ling's personality was relatively easygoing, and even many members of the Wolf Group dared to make fun of him blatantly. However, after being controlled, Wang Ling's dark personality was amplified, causing Wang Ling's temperament to change drastically. Not only did his stance change, but his personality also became very perverse and violent, and he was tempted to kill at the slightest displeasure. Behind him, the group of Yuri troops had seen Wang Ling's brutality and terror. When they heard his words, their faces all became a little abnormal and a little annoyed, but most of them were still afraid. However, after all, Yuri. Wang Ling was still unconvinced. That's just a clone. If you want to kill me too. Yuri. Oh. At this point, Wang Ling suddenly stopped, glanced at Yuri X, and said teasingly, "You guys are really cruel and ruthless." Yuri cruel and ruthless. Cut. Wang Ling didn't want to talk anymore, so he turned around and continued walking. Buzz buzz. Buzz buzz. As for the coalition forces, large-scale troops from the two bases are now running rapidly. Wang Ling's fall has completely angered this group of people. In the absence of Wang Ling, the temporary commander of the Wolf Group became Sun Dehua. He was also assisted by Chen Tong of the Eagle Group and Sun Chiming of the Dog Group. The large forces charged. Not to mention the combat effectiveness, just this posture was enough to scare people. The three major field groups were superimposed, and there were more than 60 armed helicopters. As the vanguard, they rushed to the front line and parked behind the front line attacking troops. Subsequently, more than 60 armed helicopters were deployed together, with more than 60 huge gun barrels protruding out, and they bombed the Yuri base in front of them indiscriminately. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Click. Click, click, click. Oh ho. Oh. There are more than 60 armed helicopters, even if they are all recruit level, and each one fires one cannon, there are still more than 60 rounds, not to mention a large number of elite level among them. As a result, under this fierce bombing, Yuri's base suffered heavy losses. A large number of tanks and buildings burst into flames, and even a large number of infantrymen died tragically. However, in his rage, the command of these armed helicopters did not mess up. They were still similar to Wang Ling's previous tactics. The armed helicopters in the rear moved forward one by one, approaching step by step, and quickly bombed the entire Yuri base. During the bombing, The anti-aircraft tracked vehicle army also carried the Wolf Group, Eagle Group, and Dog Group troops and arrived at the front line. At that moment, hundreds of infantrymen lined up and shouted in unison, "Brothers, rush! Rush! Get the team leader back! Rush!" When commanding the armed helicopter, the commander remained calm, but when he arrived at the front line in person, all his calmness was overwhelmed by anger. A group of people completely abandoned their usual fighting style and went crazy under the cover of gunfire from the armed helicopter. Like charging. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. He. In the world of Red Alert, the firepower of conscripts is not strong, but no matter how bad it is, they cannot withstand huge numbers. There were hundreds of Babische submachine guns and even ace-level magnetic blast infantry for long-range bombardment. The firepower was superimposed. Yuri Base, which has always been known for its strong defense power, could not withstand it. The defense line collapsed almost instantly. 3 major field battles form a large force and file in, firing at all enemies in sight to vent their anger. During the strong attack, the Phantom Tank Army and the Rhino Tank Army also arrived one after another, joining the battle circle, and started the strong attack in full swing. Speaking of which, this Yuri base was unlucky. It had been devastated by nuclear bomb attacks before, and the subsequent coalition offensive almost destroyed the entire base. Later, the coalition forces retreated, and the base ushered in a brief opportunity for development. However, not long after, because of Wang Ling's incident, it provoked such a large group of wolf-like coalition forces, and they attacked with almost no fear of death. Encountering 2 mind control towers blocking the road, the large force charged directly regardless of the risk of being controlled, and brutally blasted the 2 mind control towers. The controlled infantry also returned to normal and continued to attack with the large force. 3 Getter tanks hid under the tank bunker and strafed the mobilization troops, but they were surrounded by hundreds of mobilization troops. They were also assisted by Rhino tanks and ace-level magnetic blast infantry. In the end, more than 20 people died. 3 tank bunkers were forcibly demolished and 3 Get tanks were instantly exploded. The 2 mind control vehicles relied on their unique attack methods to savagely rush into the group of conscripts, and in an instant they controlled a large number of conscripts. However, they were met with concentrated fire from more conscripts, and in the end they were forced to explode. In the distance, 3 virus snipers took advantage of the chaos and fired their black guns, one at a time. Not long after, clouds of poisonous smoke appeared. However, the infantry army did not shy away and continued their brutal charge. However, several phantom vehicles were separated from the team. A tank can kill the virus sniper that sneaks up on you with just 3 or 2 shots. What a mess! What a mess! This Yuri base was in complete chaos. Taking control of Wanling was like poking a hornet's nest. The force of the 3 field groups' forced charge could not be intercepted by the entire base, and it was quickly destroyed. At this time, the apocalypse tanks of the 3 major field groups couldn't even get here. This group of people charged like crazy and fought fearlessly. The fighting power they unleashed was simply shocking. The cost of such a forceful attack was not small. The losses of the 3 field groups alone were close to 40% of the infantry. To demolish the entire Yuri base was to risk their lives. However, just demolishing this base was not their goal. The anger in their hearts still could not subside. Due to the existence of the spiritual beacon, they did not directly break into Mad New City. Instead, they turned around and directed at Yuri at another outer building. The base forces a charge. The 3 major field groups, together with the apocalypse tanks that arrived later, and the allied troops that were already fighting, swept across and quickly eroded the entire Yuri base. Even the command post was completely bombed, and the remaining all Yuri's troops were trembling with fear, frightened by the momentum of these 3 field groups. Hiss, this momentum, even I got goosebumps when I saw it. I said, Are you worried? Just when the three major field groups were planning to mop up the remaining Yuri troops, there was a sudden sound from behind Yuri's base. There was a playful voice, and in a blink of an eye, Wang Ling and Yuri X arrived here with a large force from another Yuri base. I asked the editor, and it was said that there were too many sensitive customs involved in the adventure notes, so it was not recommended to revise them. To be honest, when I heard the news, I just felt a darkness in front of me, confused, hesitant, and at a loss. Sitting in front of the computer, I couldn't type a few words for a long time, and my mind was in a mess. I have been insisting on revising and staying optimistic because I still have hope in my heart. It doesn't matter if I am tired. But now if there is no hope, what should I do? Annoying. I want to take a leave tomorrow to calm down this bad mood. I also want to think about whether I should continue to revise the adventure notes. It took more than a year and countless efforts to write them. How can it be wasted like this? Time passed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 767. Wang Ling's voice was not loud, but it seemed to have magical power. It quickly reached the ears of the three major field groups of the coalition and even the Allied offensive troops. The battle that was originally in full swing suddenly stopped. Team Leader. Team Leader, you are finally here. Team Leader, don't let them control you, come back. After seeing Wang Ling, the Wolf Group troops, who were still angry at first, actually started crying at this moment, with Sun Dehu as the leader, either shouting or begging. Chen Tong also shouted excitedly, Wang Ling. In my heart, you are invincible. I am willing to obey your orders, but how can you be controlled by Yuri now? Wake up, don't let me look down on you. Wang Ling. Wake up, are you so willing to let Yuri control you? Is this still the Wang Ling I know? Even Agent Tanya was shouting. Listening to these many voices, Wang Ling couldn't help but close his eyes, took a deep breath and then opened them suddenly, with a very fierce tone, shut up, everyone. Are you tired of Rory? In an instant, all the begging and shouting disappeared. Everyone looked at Wang Ling in disbelief, as if they couldn't believe that such words came from Wang Ling. However, whether they believe it or not, this is the truth. After stopping everyone, Wang Ling slapped his ears and said sarcastically, look at you all in such a mess, begging Grandpa to sue Grandma, isn't it embarrassing? With this look, I'm embarrassed to tell others that you were once mine. Subordinates. Team Leader. No matter how embarrassed we are all your subordinates, and you will always be our team leader. You were before, you are now, and you will be in the future. Team Leader, come back. Woo. Wang Ling's sarcasm and lesson not only failed to stop them, Sun Dehu actually started crying. Afterwards, other members of the Wolf Group also started to choke up. When chivalrous people also have tenderness, this group of people can kill the enemy without hesitation, but when facing Wang Ling, they also showed their most vulnerable side. Wang Ling was obviously under control, but when faced with this scene, his heart suddenly pounded and he seemed very uncomfortable. His face was unmoved, but a trace of tears could not help but fall from the corners of his eyes. What a touching scene. But Yuri, what's the point? Stop talking nonsense to them, raise your gun and kill them all. When he said this, both Yuri X and other Yuri troops were very excited, as if they wanted to see Wang Ling personally massacre his old subordinates. But do I need you to teach me how to do things? If you dare to give me any orders again, I will kill you. Wang Ling didn't listen to his orders at all. Instead, he glared at him fiercely, which scared Yuri X trembling. The other Yuri troops were also horrified, and for a moment no one dared to answer his words. After stopping these people, Wang Ling turned around, looked at Sun Dehu and his party, sneered, and said, "As for you, stop being stupid. I am no longer your team leader, but a member of the Soul Empire, and my enemy. Originally I wanted to deal with you personally here and get it over with, but seeing how pitiful you are, as your old team leader, I don't want to do anything to you this time. Go away, and next time, don't show up in my house again. In front of me, otherwise I won't hold back anymore." Wang Ling's attitude was beyond everyone's expectations. Everyone in Yuri's army, including Yuri X, had their eyes widened. Yuri. However, some people couldn't stand it any longer. For example, recruit Lieutenant Yuri, who had previously punished Wang Ling by running 500 laps at night when he was a spy, stood up and reprimanded him. "Isn't this nonsense? They are all elites of the coalition forces. Kill them, the coalition forces will definitely suffer heavy losses. Why let them go like this? Just because you, Wang Ling, are their old team leader, just because of your words. Humph, looking for death. As the saying goes, if you are not diligent or lazy, you will not be smart." Wang Ling had said harsh words before, but now that he was contradicted, his anger surged. Wang Ling stopped being polite and covered his ears with lightning speed. He rushed to the lieutenant, reached out and grabbed his throat, turned around and pushed him to the ground with a bang, causing a large amount of dust to rise. The violent impact also made the lieutenant vomit blood. After waiting for the dust to gradually fall, Wang Ling said coldly, "It's you again. Humph, you are a little lieutenant, how can you talk back to me? I tolerated it when I was a spy before, but now, you don't care. What is this? He wants to kill you, but it's just a matter of moving his fingers." Wang Ling. Oh ho. As Wang Ling was talking, he transformed into a king-level magnetic blast infantry. Seeing this, Yuri, the strong electromagnetic surge caused Lieutenant Yuri, the new recruit, to be blown to ashes in an instant. Quiet. Quiet. The strong electromagnetic sound seemed to stimulate everyone's hearing. After the sound fell, the scene was strangely silent. The rest of Yuri's troops were all dumbfounded and silent. How could this newly controlled person be so ferocious and start killing people on his own position even if he disagreed? However, the coalition forces and allied forces were confused. What was going on with Wang Ling? Wasn't he controlled? How could he kill Yuri's soldiers in front of them? Killing with one hand shocked everyone, but Wang Ling didn't feel anything wrong at all. He stood up and clapped his hands, casually switched back to the elite combat soldiers, looked at the silent Yuri troops, and shouted. He snorted coldly and didn't say much. However, looking back at the stunned coalition soldiers, he was particularly unhappy and scolded directly, "Are you stupid? I told you to get out, what are you still doing here? My patience is limited, don't let me lose my patience. Otherwise no one can leave. Team leader." These words finally woke up the coalition soldiers. However, this group of people came with the determination to die. They couldn't even listen to General Li Wiki's orders. How could they follow Wang Ling's wishes at this time? Sun Dehu even stepped forward step by step, crying, "I won't leave. If you want to leave, you come with us, or you kill me. Team leader, we are not leaving." With him taking the lead, the rest of the wolf group also shouted in unison. However, their statement also angered Wang Ling. In a few steps, he rushed directly to Sun Dehu, punched him to the ground, and then picked up his collar and lifted him up. "Let me tell you one last time, I am no longer your team leader. If you continue to mess with me, you will die. Get out." As his voice fell, Wang Ling also kicked Sun Dehu hard on the chest. This huge force actually kicked him more than 40 meters directly, and landed in front of the wolf group's large force. It's decided, let's continue revising the unblocked adventure notes. Not long after the adventure notes was finished, when Red Alert World first opened and needed recommendations, the crackdown suddenly started, and the blocking of the adventure notes seemed to suppress luck. All recommendations could not be carried out normally, and there was no foundation from the beginning. Stable, but now the results are still difficult to see improvement. So no matter how many times you modify it, no matter how troublesome it is, you have to try. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 768. Boom. Puff. Sundahu has also been injected with intermediate strengthening, and his level of magnetic blast infantry has reached the 7-star ace level, and his physical fitness is excellent. However, Wang Ling was still no match for him. With this almost merciless kick, his internal organs were immediately injured, and he spit out a large mouthful of blood after he landed on the ground. However, this guy still refused to give up. He fell to the ground and did not stand up for a while. Instead, he started crying, "Team leader. Why didn't you kick me to death? Get lost. Don't embarrass me here. If you don't get lost, you will die." However, when Wang Ling saw his embarrassed appearance, he became more and more angry and cursed mercilessly. "Forget it, Sundahu, come back." Sundahu still did not intend to give up, but at this time, the voice of General Li Wiki came over the radio. "If you continue to rely on it, not only will you not be able to save him, you will also die." Woo! But how could Sundahu listen in this state? Even Li Tong and Gu Suanwei were crying and refused to leave. There was no way. General Li Wiki could only choose someone else. Chen Tong. "You have seen the current situation. With your strength, it is impossible to bring Wang Ling back. Come back." Yes, General. Chen Tong was naturally not willing to give in, but as Wang Ling's old subordinate, Sundahu didn't even risk his life to persuade Wang Ling, so who was he here? After sighing, Chen Tong also looked away. At least this time, there was no way they could succeed. Retreat. Get a few people and drag Sundahu and the others away. After regaining his sense, Chen Tong directly issued a retreat order to the entire army. The members of the Eagle Group naturally took the order and prepared to retreat. The members of the Wolf Group were still a little reluctant to leave, but under Wang Ling's wolf-like gaze, they had no choice but to sigh dejectedly and turn around to retreat. Sundahu, Li Tong, and Gu Suanwei were forcibly dragged away by several members of the Eagle Group. Although all three of them have been injected with intermediate enhancements, no one can resist now. "Wang Ling, you look like this." "Oh, that's it, let's go." Sun Chiming had no choice but to lead his troops to retreat without waiting for General Luo Er's order. Looking at the backs of the three major coalition field groups withdrawing, the guards in this base originally felt a little unreal. If Wang Ling and the others had not arrived here, given the madness of the three coalition field groups, they would have had no chance of survival. However, when Wang Ling arrived, he was able to make all the coalition troops retreat without a fight with just one person, and a group of people also survived. For this reason, many Yuri guards were a little surprised when they looked at Wang Ling. Of course, these are only the surviving Yuri base guards. In fact, Yuri X and other Yuri troops who came with Wang Ling now look particularly ugly. Wang Ling looked completely out of control. Not only did he let all the coalition troops go, but he also killed a lieutenant-level Yuri recruit in front of them. What does this sound like? After spending so much manpower, material, and energy, how could it be controlled by an uncle? Leader Yuri chose not to suppress Wang Ling's personality. Instead, he encouraged his dark personality and changed his temperament drastically. Although he retained a strong fighting capacity, this person was not at all under control. "This decision, Chief, it seems you did something wrong." Yuri X looked at Wang Ling from behind, but he was already doubting Yuri X's decision in his heart. However, Wang Ling did not know this. After all the coalition forces retreated, he turned his attention to the direction of the Allies. Agent Tanya had been watching Wang Ling's actions before. She couldn't get in a word at the home of the coalition forces. She waited until the coalition forces retreated and only the Allies were left, then she gritted her teeth and looked unwilling to do so. Appearance, Wang Ling. You are so cruel to your subordinates. You disappoint me very much. Let's go. As he spoke, Agent Tanya waved her hand and was about to lead the Allied offensive troops to evacuate here. Agent Tanya was not naive enough to accomplish what Wang Ling's men couldn't do. Now that the coalition forces had retreated, there was no point in her staying any longer. She might as well go back and teach Reagan a lesson. But... Stop. Who told you to leave? She wanted to leave, but Wang Ling disagreed and let the coalition forces go. However, he pointed all his fingers at the Allies. I disappoint you like this? Haha, why don't you think about who turned me into this? Is it like that? Did I disappoint you by surviving the time and space teleportation? You Wang Ling. You can hate me and even attack me, but you can't wrongly accuse me. This is Reagan's own decision. Don't put the blame on me. Seeing you being swept away by the time and space teleportation, you know that how worried are you? Agent Tanya was also a little angry because it was about her innocence. However, Wang Ling laughed and said, unjustly accused. There is no need. We are a hostile force now. It is not up to that old bastard Reagan to decide on the time and space teleportation. This has nothing to do with me. It is your allies. Made me look like this, patting my butt and just want to leave? Have you asked me about the gun in my hand? Don't bully others too much. Do you think we are as afraid of you as the coalition forces? Agent Tanya did not reply to this statement. Instead, the Allied leader who led the attack became furious. Although Wang Ling is a hero of the Allied forces, with extremely powerful combat capabilities and outstanding military exploits, as the leader of the Allied forces, this person refuses to acknowledge Wang Ling from the bottom of his heart. Now Wang Ling is controlled and has become a hostile force. But he was eager to try, wanting to see if he could kill Wang Ling. But this idea was exactly what Wang Ling wanted, and he immediately said provocatively, really? Since there is nothing to fear, let's give it a try. Attack and kill Wang Ling. Don't do anything stupid. Kill. Provoked, the team leader directly gave the order to attack. Agent Tanya was shocked and quickly tried to stop him. She knew how powerful Wang Ling was and didn't want her troops to die in vain. However, under the shouts of killing, who can listen to her words? At that moment, the entire offensive force began to charge. Seeing this posture, Wang Ling was happy. I'm just waiting for you. Attention all magneto-electric tanks, bring me the Allied prism tanks from a long distance, and ignore the others. Although he had been controlled not long ago, Wang Ling had no intention of being a prisoner and even ordered Yuri's troops preemptively. Of course, the magneto-electric tanks could not be directly ordered by him. In the end, Yuri then controlled it. But without the threat of the prism tank, Wang Ling didn't pay attention to the remaining Allied troops at all. I hate the Allies, let's get some interest from you first. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 769. Kill. Kill. Don't be afraid. Wang Ling is just promoted to the altar. He is not that strong at all. Whoever can kill him will be promoted to 3 levels in a row. The Allied offensive force was really going crazy at this moment. A group of soldiers and tanks charged with all their might. In order to encourage the soldiers, the team leader even shouted loudly to encourage the soldiers. No matter what the price, as long as he can kill Wang Ling in this battle, he will become famous in one battle, and the benefits are unimaginable. Come back, don't go and die. Agent Tanya was still shouting from behind, but now, under the bewilderment of the team leader, No one could hear her words amid the shouts of death. The title of Allied hero and war goddess was unexpectedly lost at this moment. Seems so pale and weak. Swish swish swish. The result was just as Agent Tanya expected. As soon as the Allied troops approached, all the light tanks were immediately attracted to the air by the magneto-electric tanks from a distance. Then, the nightmare came. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Oh. Oh ho. Boom. 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 Wang Ling would not hold back at all when dealing with them. The AK rifle strengthened by the King of Soldiers immediately opened fire. It was as fast as a Gatling gun. Any infantry that entered its range would be killed in an instant, without even a single shot. A person can hold on for just 1 second. Even the leader of the Allied forces at the rear was killed under this strafing fire. Not only the infantry, but also the tanks and vehicles. The multifunctional infantry vehicles are not much better than the infantry. They were exploded almost as soon as they faced each other during the charge. The explosions were connected together, just like setting off firecrackers. The Grizzly tank was slightly stronger, but it was still difficult to resist Wang Ling's strafing fire. In just one breath, half of all the Grizzly tanks were exploded, and in another breath, the entire army was wiped out. After casually killing this group of Allied troops, Wang Ling immediately transformed into a King-level anti-aircraft infantry. He aimed at the Prism tank that was still drifting in the air and fired a series of shells. In just a few seconds, the 4 Prism tanks, all the tanks exploded. The battle started quickly, but ended even faster. A group of Yuri troops had just prepared to fight, but they didn't realize what was going on. All Yuri's attacking troops were killed by Wang Ling alone. It was a complete mess. Gudu. Hiss. So strong. At this moment, Yuri's troops, who were originally a little dissatisfied with Wang Ling, were all frightened, and their eyes were a little horrified. Even Yuri the Price. With such a strong fighting power, he does have the qualifications and the capital to be arrogant. Not only them, but Agent Tanya is probably the one who feels the deepest feelings now. She knew how powerful Wang Ling was, so she did not join the attacking team. All the Allied troops were wiped out, and she was the only one left alive. And seeing all the Allied troops being almost crushed and killed by Wang Ling alone, she now actually felt a little cold all over her body. Indeed, she knew how powerful Wang Ling was, but in the past he had always appeared as an ally. Now that Wang Ling had become an enemy, his powerful fighting power against the allies actually gave her a sense of powerlessness and fear. Tanya. Just as Agent Tanya was trembling, Wang Ling shouted to her from a distance, "You are a dignified hero of the Allied forces, why are you so timid this time? Come here and fight with me. The instructor's revenge is here. I just signed up, by the way." This shout also woke up Agent Tanya. She gritted her teeth in annoyance and stared back from a distance. "Wang Ling, even if you want to kill me, you have to wait until you return to normal. You are no longer the person I know. Wang Ling, even if I commit suicide, I will not fall into your hands." After saying that, Agent Tanya took a few steps back, with a trace of tears in the corners of her eyes, then turned around and ran away, looking like a wronged little lady. But Wang Ling was still shouting from behind, "Why did you run away? This is not what an Allied hero should do. If you tell me, aren't you afraid of embarrassing the Allies?" His temperament changed drastically. Wang Ling's words now are quite venomous. However, Agent Tanya didn't know how much she heard these words, but she had already run away after he finished speaking. Looking at Tanya's increasingly smaller figure, "Yuri." Wang Ling put away the rifle, crossed his arms, and said with a playful smile, "This girl is interesting and has a hot temper. It would be a pity to kill the monster directly. Let's see if she can be tied up to be a village wife one day." Yuri. After casually looking at the messy battlefield, "Yuri." Wang Ling spat and replied, "I feel unhappy. He and Einstein can treat each other differently, and send Agent Tanya alone to target me. Why can't I do this? Yuri X was speechless again. This Wang Ling who was controlled was so casual and subjective that he was not controlled at all. In front of them, he killed a Yuri recruit and let the coalition troops go. Was he just out of anger? This statement really made many people present feel unhappy. However, fortunately, Wang Ling did not do nothing. The powerful impression he left when he killed the Allied troops has now penetrated into the hearts of all Yuri troops at the scene. They do not dare to have the slightest prejudice against Wang Ling now, let alone many, I'm afraid, are still afraid. This battle was Wang Ling's first battle after he was controlled, and it was also a battle to clear his name. Through this battle, Wang Ling also showed his powerful fighting power to the Mind Empire, which was enough to deserve his current treatment, or even future status. For this reason, even if the members of Yuri's troops around him couldn't stand Wang Ling anymore, they didn't dare to say anything more. The enemies are all gone. Let's go back and drink. After the battle was over, Wang Ling casually waved his hand and gave the order to the entire army. But this time, no one protested or said anything. Even Yuri X nodded silently and followed Wang Ling. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Wang Ling, you bastard! In this battle, Wang Ling fought happily, but it also broke Agent Tanya's heart. All the Allied troops were wiped out, not even a single multi-purpose infantry vehicle was left behind. She was running all the way back. While running, Agent Tanya was really angry. When she stopped, she turned around and cursed in the direction of Yuri's base. Whoa! Wang Ling, you bastard, why are you so cruel? And while he was cursing and cursing, this dignified Allied hero actually cried. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 770. No matter how strong a person is, he still has a fragile side, and even a chivalrous person can have tenderness, let alone Agent Tanya. Although she was an Allied hero and was also known as the goddess of war, she was still a woman. She was hurt by Wang Ling, so she naturally felt aggrieved. She hid alone in the shade of a tree and cried for a while. However, due to his status as a hero, Agent Tanya did not allow herself to expose her vulnerable side too much. After crying for a while, she forced herself to endure it. She wiped away her tears and continued running towards the base while screaming secretly in her heart. Author, Reagan, it's all your fault. General. Why do you want us back? After all, Agent Tanya was running at the speed of infantry, so she was naturally inferior to the coalition's anti-aircraft tracked vehicles. On her way back, the coalition's army of anti-aircraft tracked vehicles had already returned to the base with all the infantry. After walking out of the anti-aircraft tracked vehicle, all the captains and team leaders of the two field groups entered the command post under the order of General Li Wiki. However, before General Li Wiki could express his position, Sun Dehu took the initiative to question him, and his tone was even very intense. But General Li Wiki didn't tolerate him at all. With a cold snort, he kicked him over and scolded, Sun Dehu. You are still a captain, why do you do things completely without thinking? What's the use of my brain? The team leader is under control. Sun Dehu didn't stand up immediately, but he was very excited. He said this sentence in an almost crying tone. But General Li Wiki still refused to let go. Wang Ling is under control, are you going to take everyone in the wolf group to die? Huh. General, we volunteer. Yes, we also want to rescue the team leader. General, you can't blame him entirely. As soon as he finished speaking, unexpectedly, in addition to Sun Dehu, the other three wolf team captains also expressed their stance. Looking at this posture, it seemed that they were going to share the responsibility equally. "Shut up," General Li Wiki was still angry and scolded him back, "are you allowed to speak? Everyone has become more capable, right? They have all learned to disobey orders." Everyone remained silent except for Sundahu, who barely stood up and made a slightly choked sound. After glancing at everyone present, General Li Wiki was still scolding. "This time, Wang Ling was thinking about his old friendship and did not attack you. Otherwise, not only would Wang Ling not be able to be saved, but you would also not be able to come back alive. You think you are disobeying me, saving Wang Ling, how heroic and righteous. In fact, all of them have no brains. Everyone is as impulsive as you, and the coalition army has been dead long ago. Thanks to you, each and every one of you is either the captain or the team leader, and even the temporary commander's assistant. Is this how you work? From now on, everyone will be removed from their posts." Good guy. With one impulse and one word, all the captains, team leaders and even the temporary commander's assistants were dismissed from their posts and became ordinary soldiers. This can't be blamed on General Li Wiki's cruelty. After all, the army has its own rules. Even in the red alert world, you can't mess around. Disobeying the commander's orders and leading the army to fight forcefully, nearly half of the two field groups were lost. This kind of casualty figure is unbearable even for General Li Wiki. If he didn't kill them directly, he might have been merciful. Whether it was Sundahu and other members of the Wolf Group, or Chen Tong and other members of the Eagle Group, none of them had any objections to this decision. Since they decided to disobey orders and attack, they were ready to accept all punishments. A group of people were silent, and General Li Wiki also looked at them and didn't speak for a while. It was rare for the scene to be quiet for a while. However, he was still suppressing his emotions. After being quiet for a while, Sundahu finally asked again, "General, we all agree that you are removing us from our positions, but what about the team leader? Just watching. Is he being controlled by Yuri's troops? And those sons of bitches from the Allied forces, they clearly united, but they blatantly framed the team leader. Is this the end of the grudge?" Snort. When these questions were mentioned, General Li Wiki felt panicked. He glared at them, suppressed the anger in his heart, and then said, "How can I say that you are all brainless? Wang Ling was controlled, wasn't he? Dead. Obviously, Yuri was targeting Wang Ling, trying to win him over as his subordinate. With Wang Ling's fighting power and knowledge, as well as Yuri's special care, he was controlled and only in the Soul Empire. It will be more nourishing and have a higher status than now, so do you need to worry?" A group of people were made red-faced by what he said. Thinking back on the scene after the meeting, it was really like this. Wang Ling was obviously controlled not long ago, but he acted like the boss of the base. He was obviously a captive under control, but he dared to scold Yuri X, the hero-level unit of the Soul Empire. Moreover, in front of a group of Yuri troops, he actually killed a Yuri recruit with his own hands, but the Yuri troops dared not speak out in anger. The most important thing is that the two sides are obviously hostile forces, but Wang Ling took it upon himself to let all the coalition personnel go. A group of Yuri troops could only be obedient and let them go. Thinking about these experiences, how could Wang Ling have suffered and been bullied after being controlled? Thank God for those people if he didn't bully Yuri's troops. This time Yuri's troops did not control a simple prisoner, they almost took him back as a master. After thinking about this, a group of people who were originally very sad and angry finally gradually let go of their anger, and some even felt dumbfounded. "I'm sorry, General, we were reckless." As the person with the highest position in the group, Chen Tong also apologized on his own behalf at this time. But after he finished speaking, he questioned again, "Wang Ling is in the Soul Empire, and it seems that he will be fine. But after all, he is a member of our coalition. Are we just going to watch him work for the Seoul Empire? Of course not, General Lee Wiki sighed and replied, you don't know how strong Wang Ling's combat effectiveness is. After you left, he almost wiped out all the allied attacking troops easily by himself. If he wants to target if we open fire, we will probably have trouble sleeping and eating. What's more, he is one of ours, and he must be taken back no matter what. I have noticed that it was the psychic beacon that finally controlled Wang Ling. As long as we can destroy that spiritual beacon, Wang Ling will definitely return to normal. Destroy the spiritual beacon? It doesn't sound simple at this time. Zhao Pingwang, who had been watching from the sidelines, couldn't help but interrupt. It's not easy, but it has to be done. If the Air Force is not under control, we will use the Air Force to attack. No matter what the cost, we will destroy that thing. Sun Dehu immediately became excited. But General Li Wiki lowered his hand. Don't rush this matter now, Wang Ling will be fine. Now, it's time for us to greet the allies. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 771. In order to resist the pressure of the Seoul Empire, the coalition forces and the allied forces united together. Although they disliked each other, for the sake of this alliance, they suppressed their hatred and rescued each other several times without doing anything extraordinary. But this time, Allied General Reagan really went too far. When Wang Ling had just escaped from danger and tried to return to the base, he did not hesitate to use super weapons such as time and space teleportation to kill Wang Ling. Although Wang Ling survived in the end, he was controlled by Yuri's troops. This kind of practice is not allowed even if it is practiced on other members of the coalition forces, let alone Wang Ling, a hero-level unit of the coalition forces. This time, Reagan actually stepped on the coalition's red line. Reagan. Old bastard, get out of here. Previously, because they were too worried about Wang Ling, Sun Dehu and others disobeyed orders and led a strong attack. General Li Wiki focused almost all his energy on them. Now, although Wang Ling could not be rescued, at least Wang Ling's safety was confirmed, and Sun Dehu and others were taught a lesson. The matter was temporarily over, and this group of people finally found their energy to take care of the allies. Under the leadership of General Li Wiki, a group of people who had been dismissed from their posts, including General Luo Er and Sun Chiming who were also dismissed, stormed into General Reagan's base and brutally kicked away all the allies who blocked the way. The soldiers of the army yelled at the Allied command post. Get out! You bastard, I'll give you face. Reagan, you old man, what a fool you are. The dignified Allied commander, do you have the guts to do things but not the guts to take responsibility? Get out. The insults and scoldings of a group of people also attracted the attention of all the guards in the entire base, and they all gathered around. There were more than 200 people in total. These people also knew that their commander had done something that they could not believe. In addition, the coalition forces were so menacing that no one dared to stop them for a while. Of course, with a large number of people, it is inevitable that there will be stupid young people. After hearing the Allied forces' insults one after another, several Allied soldiers finally couldn't accept it and came forward to try to control it. But there is also a saying that goes, the first shot will kill the first person. Those who came forward were all held down and beaten by Sun Dehu and others. Who cares about you when you are so angry? If I don't kill you directly, I am already showing restraint. Under the violence, the other Allied guards couldn't stand it anymore and stepped forward to stop it. The two sides insulted each other and pushed each other, and they were fighting in a short time. Even though Sun Dehu and the others were small in number, many of them had been injected with intermediate enhancers by Wang Ling and had strong combat effectiveness. A few of them were fighting with a group of Allied soldiers, and they were indistinguishable for a while, making the scene chaotic. Stop! Seeing that the situation was getting out of control, Reagan finally walked out of the command post and started yelling with anger on his face. Under his scolding, the originally irritable Allied guards stopped, and the protagonist of this farce appeared. Sun Dehu and others stopped fighting with the other guards, and instead walked towards Reagan angrily. Others could still maintain some composure, but Sun Dehu didn't care at all. He stepped forward and knocked General Reagan over with a fist, and cursed, "Stop when you say stop. Who the hell are you? Dare to attack the general? Are you making trouble? I think he just deserves a beating." This punch caused the Allied guards who had stopped to fight again to become angry again. They rushed forward and exchanged punches, making the scene chaotic again. Stop it. At this time, General Lee Wiki also became violent. Reagan couldn't control Sun Dehu, but General Lee Wiki could. Under this violent roar, although Sun Dehu was unwilling to give in, he still gritted his teeth and retreated from the crowd, but he kept waiting for Reagan with a vicious look. It seemed as if there might be a riot at any time. Reagan had just been punched, but now he finally came to his senses, shook his head, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, stood up, and was very annoyed. "Lee Wiki, logo er. What do you mean? What do you mean by asking us? Don't you know what you did?" General Logo er was not as polite as General Lee Wiki. He stepped forward directly, grabbed Reagan's collar, and scolded him with all his might. When the other Allied guards saw this, they wanted to riot again, but Reagan quickly interrupted them with a wave of his hand. In this matter, chaos alone will be of no use at all. The accusations from the coalition forces will come sooner or later. However, General Reagan is really thick-skinned. He did such a thing, but he was still quibbling under the anger of the coalition forces. "What did I do? Why didn't you ask Wang Ling of your coalition forces what he did? What happened? He killed Einstein. His mission was to rescue Einstein, but he killed the target person. Why, just because Einstein is a scientist of our Allied forces, Wang Ling treats him differently yet. What the hell?" General Logo er opened his mouth but cursed back, "Do you think I didn't watch the electronic video? Wang Ling escaped with Einstein on his back, but he was set up by Yuri's troops." "That's right," General Lee Wiki also interjected, "there is something wrong with that Einstein. He is half blue and half purple. He is not a pure Allied scientist. And the intelligence your allies received was true from the beginning. It's both false and false. But you didn't distinguish between the true and false information, so you just called a meeting and sent agents Wang Ling and Tanya to lurk. The result? Agent Tanya was fine, but Wang Ling was surrounded. Fight your way out of the siege. Just as we were about to board the anti-aircraft crawler vehicle, you directly activated the chrono-teleportation. In my opinion, your allies had bad intentions in this matter from the very beginning." Regardless of whether the speculation was true or false, General Lee Wiki was annoyed and didn't care about it at all. Even if it was false, the allies would have to wear this big hat even if they didn't. However, Reagan seemed to have exerted his shameless spirit to the limit. "Nonsense, stop giving me such big hats. Agent Tanya is safe. It was just a coincidence. She didn't meet Einstein, but Wang Ling did, but in the end, kill Einstein. I just misjudged the timing and location of sending the chrono-teleportation out of anger." Your mother hummer. Listening to Reagan's sophistry, Sun Dehu finally couldn't hold it in anymore. As an ordinary soldier, he pointed directly at Reagan's nose and cursed, "I have never seen you so shameless. It's so shameless it's thicker than a turtle's shell and can't be blasted away with a cannon." General Logo er also scolded, "Do you think we are stupid? Do you have idiot written on our foreheads? Chronospace teleportation is a super weapon of your allies. Even this can misjudge the timing. You are a waste really? How do you have to misjudge the location in order to teleport Wang Ling to Yuri's pursuers? You bitch, you are so shameless. Do you believe I will beat you to death right now?" Why are you being polite to him? In my opinion, just beat him to death." After Sundahu said that, he rolled up his sleeves. The other Allied soldiers had been wary of this guy for a long time, and they were all on guard now. A hand-to-hand battle seems to be about to begin again. Reagan. But at this moment, a loud roar suddenly came from outside the crowd. Different dimension red alert world. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 772. It turned out that General Li Wiki and the others came with fire, intending to hold people accountable and make trouble, so the noise they caused was certainly not small. But this loud roar immediately suppressed all the chaotic sounds, and for a while no one spoke or caused trouble anymore. It's not that this sound is loud and rough, on the contrary, this shout is very sharp and harsh, just like the hysterical shouting of an angry woman. Everyone followed the sound and moved to a separate road to look, only to find that the person who made the shout was actually Agent Tanya. Agent Tanya had been released alone by Wang Ling before and had been running back all the way. She happened to run back at this time. However, she did not return to her base. Instead, she ran straight into General Reagan's base. She didn't care what the group of people at the scene were doing and how chaotic it was. She just yelled out of anger, and this was how she happened just now. One scene. There is no doubt about Agent Tanya's status within the Allied forces. Seeing Agent Tanya's arrival, the Allied soldiers who were still a little restless calmed down on the spot. Even Generals Li Wiki and Luo Er, who were originally aggressive, even Sundahu and others were unable to recover. However, Agent Tanya didn't care about them at all. She followed the path that everyone left and broke in directly, arriving in front of General Reagan. General Luo Er had been grabbing Reagan's collar, but Agent Tanya seemed to be in the way, so she twisted General Luo Er's wrist and threw him aside. Then, before General Luo Er could get angry and scold him, he punched General Reagan with one punch and knocked him to the ground. Speaking of which, General Reagan was like a punching bag because of what he did. He had been punched by Sundahu before, and now his own Agent Tanya also punched him. However, when Agent Tanya got angry, she was even more angry than Sundahu. After knocking down General Reagan, he actually took out his pistol with one hand, picked up General Reagan and put the muzzle of the gun on Reagan's chin. He was so excited. This look shocked General Reagan, who quickly interrupted, "Tanya. What are you doing? Put down the gun." But Agent Tanya was also angry. Instead of putting down the gun, she held it tighter, as if she was going to stab Reagan's chin directly and thrust it into his mouth. "What are you asking me for? Don't you look at what you have done? Our two armies are in a joint state, and you are so blatantly dealing with Wang Ling. Have you taken all of us seriously?" After General Reagan was speechless, Agent Tanya cursed him all over. "How can you tolerate it if you have the positioning rights of chronoteleportation? If you want to avenge your private vengeance on such an occasion, do you know what abyss you will bring the relationship between the two armies into? Are you satisfied that Wang Ling is now controlled by Yuri's troops? He was originally our friendly force, but now he is pointing his gun directly at us. Do you know how dangerous we are now? No matter how he offended you before, you shouldn't have targeted him like this. Fortunately, you are still a commander. I am ashamed that the Allied forces have a commander like you." If it were General Li Wiki and the others who said these words, it is estimated that the surrounding Allied troops would have been unable to stand it, and even General Reagan would have resisted. However, no one dared to provoke Agent Tanya. Even General Reagan himself did not dare to offend Tanya, who was already furious. As a result, Agent Tanya became more and more excited as she spoke. At the end of the sentence, she was still upset. She threw Reagan away with one hand and shot him with a gun with the other. However, after all, he was the commander of the Allied forces. Of course Agent Tanya would not really kill Reagan. These guns were all fired close to Reagan's body, smashing his clothes but not injuring Reagan at all. But even so, Reagan was really frightened by her posture, and he didn't dare to move for fear that Agent Tanya would miss her. After firing more than a dozen bullets in a row, Agent Tanya pointed the gun at Reagan's head on the ground, and said excitedly, "If it weren't for the overall situation, I really want to kill you with one shot. Have you had enough trouble?" After Agent Tanya had been really struggling for a while, General Reagan shouted loudly, venting his dissatisfaction. But Agent Tanya just snorted coldly, put away her pistol, and said nothing. During this process, the coalition forces who were originally looking for trouble became spectators. Even because Agent Tanya made such a fuss, Sun Dehua and others became confused, and for a while they didn't know how to get angry. After all, General Li Wiki was calm. After watching indifferently for so long, the anger in his heart never disappeared. He waited until Agent Tanya finished venting before speaking. "It seems that our coalition forces are not the only ones who are dissatisfied with you. One thing is the same." Agent Tanya said the same thing. "Now, I also want to kill you with one shot. However, killing you just like this is too cheap for you. Wang Ling is a heroic unit of our entire coalition. You designed him, and it means provoking the entire coalition on behalf of the Allies. Now that PoortoRich has known about this, he is very angry and the consequences will be serious. You just wait to bear the wrath of the coalition. Say goodbye and leave without seeing him off." After speaking, General Li Wiki waved his hand, turned around, and left with Sun Dehua and others. The group of Allied soldiers along the way did not dare to stop them. "General Bob, do you really think that our coalition forces are soft persimmons and can be manipulated as much as you want? They have provided us with false information from the beginning, but unexpectedly, they have hidden such evil intentions and openly used it directly against Wang Ling. Teleport through time and space, and moved directly in front of Yuri's chasing army." Just as General Li Wiki said, PoortoRich has already learned about Wang Ling and has seen all the electronic video. However, the locations of the general headquarters of the two armies were kept secret from each other, and they could not be approached directly. When General Li Wiki and others were causing trouble, PoortoRich was also using the radio to question the Allied commander General Bob. In fact, this time and space teleportation against Wang Ling was indeed not General Bob's intention. Seeing this result, General Bob was actually shocked and very angry at the same time. But after all, their allies were in the wrong. Faced with PoortoRich's rebuke and questioning, General Bob was also very embarrassed. "PoortoRich, calm down. We have tested this news repeatedly and it is not false. We just didn't expect Einstein to come out after solving the problem. He actually designed such a scheme against Wang Ling. How do you want me to calm down? Something happened to Einstein. Could it be that something went wrong with your Reagan too? Wang Ling worked hard and finally got out of Mater City, but look at what that bastard Reagan did." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 773. Can chrono-teleportation be used directly on infantry? But the bastard used it on Wang Ling. This is simply a premeditated murder. And it was also teleported to Yuri's chasing army. Why? Those who are playing double insurance are afraid that Wang Ling will not die, so they want Yuri's troops to finish the damage. PoortoRich's questioning continued. It can be said that he values Wang Ling very much. Wang Ling's record is enough to be promoted to the officer level, but PoortoRich has been reluctant to grant him the rank of Major General. To put it bluntly, isn't it just to test Wang Ling's character? PoortoRich's expectations for Wang Ling are even higher than those for other commanders, much higher. However, the Allied forces resorted to tricks and committed such a blatant murder during the alliance between the two armies. Where did this put his reputation as a dignified Allied commander? Normally, General Bob would have been angry when PoortoRich scolded him like this, but now they are the ones to blame, and PoortoRich is also furious. There was no other way. General Bob could only forcefully comfort him with a dark face. PoortoRich, calm down. This incident was completely beyond my expectation. I also didn't expect that Guy Reagan would do such a thing. Didn't you expect that? Haha, what a surprise. I didn't expect that the heroes of our coalition forces were pushed directly to Yuri's troops. Such a naked target. Do you really think that our coalition forces are fools? It's a shame that we are still here in a joint state. You dare to blatantly engage in such despicable methods. How can we trust an ally like you? PoortoRich couldn't listen to General Bob's comfort at all, and his words were very fierce. And after being sprayed for so long, it was hard for General Bob to accept it. His fists clenched. PoortoRich, these words of yours are too much. Am I going too far? It's interesting. Let me ask, who the hell did it first? But PoortoRich didn't care whether General Bob was angry or not. After scolding him, he directly showed the bottom line. This time, your allies have really stepped on our red line, and the consequences will be serious. This matter is not over. My patience is limited. If the allies don't give us an answer that is enough to calm our anger, I will personally tear up the joint agreement. We have been fighting for hegemony with you for a long time, and we don't care if we fight for a few more years. You. General Bob was annoyed and was about to reply, but PoortoRich cut off the radio. Asshole. 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 Since he took the throne of commander, no one has dared to rebuke him like this. After the radio was interrupted, General Bob was so angry that he smashed the control panel and even destroyed a large number of people in the general command post with a wave of his hand. His documents were scattered all over the place, and his angry look made all the staff and other generals around him tremble. After a long time, a two-star general spoke flatteringly. This commander of the coalition forces really regards himself as a person? How dare he talk to the commander like this? It's too much. However, these words made General William Block back. Whether he is a person or not, he has a higher position and more power than you. And this matter is indeed our fault, enough to let us be manipulated by others. The attitude of the commander of the coalition forces is really not surprising. The two-star general was speechless for a moment. He was so powerful that he did not dare to refute General William's words. After venting for a while, General Bob finally regained some composure. He waved his hand and ordered, "Go, call that bastard Reagan. What kind of commander should he be? What kind of soldiers should he lead? Let him now come over here immediately, roll over here non-stop." Yes. What a mess. As soon as Wang Ling's encounter came out, both the coalition and allied forces were now in chaos. There is clearly a threat from the Seoul Empire ahead, but the war zones are now unable to concentrate on dealing with this threat. As Wang Ling's experience spread rapidly, a threat has emerged between the two armies. A major crisis of confidence in the United. You know, Wang Ling is a hero of the coalition forces. Although most of the people in the coalition forces have never seen Wang Ling with their own eyes, they all know Wang Ling's name very well and regard it as a symbol. However, this dignified hero of the coalition forces was actually murdered by the Allied forces in a joint state. To all the officers and soldiers of the coalition forces, this was simply a provocation and humiliation. Originally, they were at odds with the Allies, but now the smell of gunpowder is even stronger. When the Allies are mentioned, everyone is in danger, fearing that one day they will be stabbed in the back by the Allies. Under this background, although there was no immediate break between the two sides, their relationship was already very subtle and seemed to be on the verge of collapse. They did not even have time to pay attention to the Yuri troops who were eyeing them. The chaotic situation was full of contradictions. Under this contradiction, General Reagan, under the order of General Bob, rushed back to the Allied General Headquarters by helicopter without stopping. "You bastard, do you know what stupid thing you did?" As soon as General Bob saw him, he immediately became furious, kicked him over, and cursed directly, "I gave you the control of chrono-teleportation, but who the hell gave you the right to release it randomly? Do you know what harm will happen to the Allies if you do something like this?" General Reagan has suffered enough in the past 2 days. He was beaten and scolded by the coalition forces, pointed at by Tanya's agent with a gun, and now he was kicked down by General Bob. "I miss him," a dignified Allied lieutenant general, who has suffered this kind of thing many times. The treatment really made him want to crawl into the cracks of the ground. But he couldn't resist, especially when faced with the furious General Bob. After standing up, he could only obey. But General Bob was still venting. Rich, who is also the commander of his coalition forces, dared to yell at me, but I can't refute it. "It's all because of you. What kind of commander are you? What kind of soldiers are you leading? It's just useless." His coalition forces have been urging me to give them an explanation. "How do you want me to give them an explanation?" In his rage, he cursed him with all his might. Reagan was really used to hearing this kind of words these days, and he felt very uneasy and unhappy. After General Bob scolded him for a while, he said in confusion, "Sir, I don't hesitate to offend the coalition forces, but also forcefully attack Wang Ling. It's for our allies." "But why are you so angry because of Wang Ling?" "Humph. You know, I'm angry. Where is it?" General Bob asked in a tone of hatred for iron. Reagan was a little confused. He was silent for a long time, thinking about several answers, but none of them were sure. In the end, he could only shake his head sadly. "I don't know, sir, please clarify." At this time, General Bob really spoke out, "I'm angry. I'm angry that you have done something under pressure but haven't done it yet. Wang Ling is still alive." Different Dimension Red Alert World. Author, Sanqian Lang. Chapter 774. Sir, this. When General Reagan heard this, he felt mixed emotions in his heart. Facing General Bob, he didn't know what to say for a moment. General Bob took a deep breath, barely calmed down his excitement, and then explained in detail, "We and the coalition have different ideas. Now we have to cease war and join forces due to pressure from the Seoul Empire. When Yuri threatens, it's over, and we will probably continue fighting in the future. And within the coalition, the biggest threat to us is Wang Ling. Although they are both hero-level units, everyone can see that Wang Ling is much stronger than Tanya, Agent Tanya. It's long been impossible to suppress Wang Ling." "That's right, sir." At this point, General Reagan finally had something to say. "Wang Ling is too great a threat to us. He has already shown that potential as early as in the Holy City war zone. Now his combat effectiveness is getting stronger and stronger. When I attacked him, on the one hand, I did remember his hatred, but more importantly, I wanted to get rid of this huge threat in advance for the sake of the Allies." "Humph, the idea is good, but what's the result?" General Bob snorted and blocked Reagan with one sentence, and then said coldly, "I have done everything, but I have not done it completely. Not only is Wang Ling still alive, but he has been controlled by the hostile Force Mind Empire. What I am afraid of is his personal battle. Now that our two armies are united, Wang Ling is in the coalition, at least he will not take the initiative to target us. But what about you? He was teleported to Yuri's chasing army in an instant, allowing him to be killed by the Seoul Empire. Take control. Now, the threats we may face in the future must be faced in advance now. Didn't you see the scene where he almost single-handedly wiped out our attacking team effortlessly?" Speaking of this, Reagan was also very upset. "Sir, this incident caught me off guard. How can a normal person directly withstand the field of time and space teleportation? I deliberately chose the gap where Wang Ling failed to get on the bus. After activating the time and space teleportation, it stands to reason that he should have no way to survive, but he survived. And to be on the safe side, I specifically moved Wang Ling in front of the pursuing army. Even if he survived, Yuri's troops should also we killed him immediately. But who knew that instead of killing him, Yuri's troops actually controlled him? Yes, Reagan's original plan could be said to be foolproof. If it had been any other person, he would have died countless times. But it happened that the person he was targeting this time was Wang Ling. With Wang Ling's current physical strength, he can actually withstand the tearing field of time and space teleportation, and his strong combat power and unique identity have even attracted Yuri to be more optimistic about him, and would rather risk huge losses. Control him too. These two unexpected events completely ruined Reagan's plan. Does this kind of thing make any sense now? Wang Ling has been controlled and has become our direct enemy. Moreover, the coalition forces are also very angry, constantly putting pressure on us, asking for an explanation. How should I respond to them? What explanation can I give them? However, failure is failure. General Bob can't care so much about this and is still angry. If you really succeed in this matter and kill Wang Ling, then everything will be worth it. I would risk my life to protect you. But you failed to do it, and pushed the situation to the worst. How do you want me to protect you? Boom. As he spoke, General Bob was really angry and slapped him down again. The loud noise made everyone in the general command post tremble. Reagan originally thought he had found a savior after listening to General Bob's words, but after hearing this, his face darkened instantly. Buzz. At this moment, a strange sound suddenly came from the headquarters, as if there was a sudden power outage. However, after a quick check, there was clearly still power supply in the headquarters. What's going on? Many people asked this question subconsciously. Not long after asking, a staff member quickly reported, "Sir, where are the coalition forces?" What happened to the coalition forces? When the coalition forces were mentioned at a sensitive time, many people present had a bad feeling in their hearts. Sure enough, the staff member continued, the coalition forces cut off the power supply to the nuclear reactor, and now almost all of our war zones have lost power. What? Upon hearing the news, all the generals present were shocked. In this modern war in the red alert world, it is self-evident how important electricity is. Once the power is cut off, the entire base will be semi-paralyzed, giving the enemy enough opportunities to take advantage of it. But now, the coalition forces have interrupted the supply of nuclear reactors, triggering large-scale power outages in all theaters. Almost all Allied bases have been semi-paralyzed. This is a heavy blow to the Allied forces, and the defense strength has been greatly reduced. Buzz. Buzz. Sure enough, in shock, two buzzing sounds were heard in a short time. Different from the previous sound, this time it was a real alarm, and it was the alarm sound of two bases being attacked in a row. Hearing this voice, all the generals on the scene looked extremely sad. They wanted to check, but the electronic map was also in a paralyzed state, and they could not observe the battle situation in time. Buzz. Buzz. The more anxious they were, the more complicated the battle situation became. Then the alarms of attacks came out one after another, and two more bases were attacked by Yuri's troops. Damn it! The good coalition forces are putting pressure on us in this way. Hearing the sirens one after another, General Bob was absolutely furious. General William also analyzed in a timely manner, the alliance between our two armies was originally mutually beneficial. The coalition borrowed our crack generators and electronic maps and provided us with electricity at the same time. But now the coalition has suddenly cut off the power supply in order to implement pressure. I'm afraid PoortoRich wasn't joking when he said he was tearing up the joint agreement. Reagan, you really did something you shouldn't have done this time and got into big trouble. General Reagan grinned, having no ability to defend himself against this accusation. I don't believe that the coalition forces will really do this. However, another general analyzed, the coalition forces will suffer from this. We have used a lot of their electricity, but we also have the ability to build power plants. At most, we will spend more resources to build them. But the coalition forces can't do that. They are using our technology. Once the alliance stops, they will lose both the crack generator and the electronic video in an instant, and with their technology, they will not be able to build it themselves. General Williams sighed and shook his head and said, "You are so naive. These are only direct losses for both parties. If the joint agreement is torn up, there will be a series of problems later. Not to mention that the Seoul Empire is watching eagerly. I wish I could. Our two armies are at each other's throats, and we alone are coveting the coalition's Kirov airships. The date for the second exchange of military technology is about to come, but something happened at this time. Do you think the coalition might still take it? Will you exchange the technology for the big killer with us?"